21st, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was in Kyiv on her third visit to the city since Russia's invasion began. She discussed further ways on how to integrate Ukraine's economy with the EU's and pledged to support Kyiv for as long as it takes.
The accession process is well on track. In parallel, we have agreed that we need to work as much as possible to make sure that Ukraine has more business, more income, and thus the seamless access to the European single market is possible for Ukraine. We have 98% of tariffs that are no more on goods. That is good. But there are many non-tariff barriers that we can take away and where our experts will work on.
For more on this story, we can go across to France 24's Dave Keating standing by in Brussels. Dave, we just heard there from the EU Commission President, who literally is showing her support for Ukraine by what she's wearing. But how significant is this announcement?
Well, as expected, President von der Leyen was really focusing on the economics here. It's what she focused on in her annual State of the Union address to the European Parliament yesterday, very much focused on how the EU single market can help Ukraine to rebuild. So she was mentioning there in that soundbite the fact that 98% of tariffs have already been eliminated and that they are looking at ways of further having Ukraine have really intense access to the single market. But note she didn't say full access to the single market because that comes with EU membership. But there's things around the sides there. She mentioned those non-tariff barriers that are left. So one instance is that the EU is going to extend its roaming-free mobile area to Ukraine. That means Ukrainians can use their mobiles in the EU. EU citizens can use their mobiles in Ukraine without roaming. It's a small thing, but it is helpful, for instance, for those Ukrainians who then don't have to get new SIM cards when they are refugees in the EU. But perhaps more important, and one of the journalists just asked this in the press conference that they're having there in Kyiv, is about the recognition of qualifications. They want to make it so if you're trained for a certain job in Ukraine, you can go to the EU and do that job there. But here's where it gets tricky, because if they're talking about rebuilding Ukraine after the war, then a real risk is the brain drain. And another Ukrainian journalist asked Commission President von der Leyen about this during the press conference there. If you're making it so easy for Ukrainians to leave Ukraine and go work in the EU, is there a risk that they will never come back and Ukraine won't have the skilled people it needs there staying in Ukraine to rebuild? That is an ongoing issue here. So they're looking at how to have this integrated access for Ukraine into the EU single market, how to use that to rebuild Ukraine and not have any risk of a brain drain, to make sure that the single market is working to help Ukraine there in Ukraine. That's going to be a tricky tightrope to balance.
Dave, we've had the European Union who has accused Russia of using energy as a weapon, something Vladimir Zelensky has reiterated today. So what is Brussels doing as we head into winter?
Yeah, both President Zelensky and President von der Leyen just mentioned this at that press conference in Kyiv, that Russia is effectively using energy as a weapon of retaliation against the EU's sanctions. Yesterday, President von der Leyen unveiled some unprecedented interventions in the EU energy market in order to preemptively defend against Putin's actions and the expected cutoff of Russian gas. So for one point, probably the biggest news from yesterday is that Europeans are going to have to use 5% less electricity during peak hours. That is a mandate for national governments to deliver. They're also going to have a windfall tax on the excess profits that energy companies are making. The Commission is calling it a solidarity contribution. And that is going to go to consumers who are struggling with their energy bills. They've also enabled national governments to cap energy prices. So there's a lot of really unprecedented things there that normally the Commission, which is very free market oriented, is loath to do. It was some pretty major announcements yesterday, but that's how scared they are of the coming months. And they just don't know. The big question is, will Vladimir Putin cut off the gas? The problem is for Putin, he has nowhere else to send that gas. The pipelines go to the EU. The gas wells have to stay on. If he cuts off the gas deliveries to the EU, he has nowhere else to send the gas, and they've already started burning gas that they're not sending to the EU as they've already cut down supply levels. So the question is, how nervy is the EU feeling? That's the next big question. Von der Leyen did not announce yesterday a cap on the price of the purchase price of gas from Russia. That's what a lot of countries are asking for. They said they need more time to consider the effects of that on the market. And the big question is, if they do that, will Russia just cut off the gas? So that's going to be the next step to look for EU actions on the energy front.
We'll see how things pan out as we head into winter. Dave, thank you very much for that. Dave Keating reporting there for us from Brussels. Now, in other news, China's President Xi Jinping